Hey everybody, John Felt here. This is the Blue Water Outlook weekly weather briefing for March 7th, 2026. I've seen a lot of signs of early spring, and I'm going to talk about that in this briefing, but it looks like a return back to winter in a number of areas by the end of the week. Let's get started. Okay, speaking of signs of spring, early spring, hey, look at the dew points. They have really moved up to the north here, 50s and 60s. I don't know about you, but I like a feel of dew points that are a little bit more moist after a very dry summer. We're also getting a lot of streakiness in our tracks of thunderstorms here, and that's a sign of early spring, more thunderstorm activity, not as much synoptic or uniform rain, and a widespread but a diverse amount of severe storm activity, some heavy rains, some high winds, that's yellow, a few tornadoes last week. Now, one thing about spring, remember, this time very early in spring, we can jump back and forth between spring-like feel and a winter-like feel, and I'm going to be talking about that ahead. So not much snow last week. Here was one very narrow streak right here, some light flurries here, but there's really not much snow on the ground at all compared to what we've seen in past years. Looks very quiet on the snow front. The reason why, it's been very mild. Temperatures 5 to 15 degrees above normal last week, and in this area here we had 60s, we had highs of 70s, and we had highs of 80s last week. Now this is where we do have that snow cover up here, and that's where we could have some localized flooding in that area. But it does look like any flooding we get might come down the Mississippi like that and then attenuate because just nothing further to the south as far as snow goes. Now, talking about rivers, well, we do have from the last recent week rain some rises on tributaries into the Illinois and the Ohio, minor flooding in orange, moderate in red in those communities, and a few spots elsewhere we also have some higher flows. For this time of spring, I wouldn't call this unusual. This is the time of spring when we're getting into some of our more significant flooding in past years. So right now, this is more localized, and you can see it on the Ohio here. We're getting these bumps going through, and on the main stem rivers, we're basically seeing within bank flows. This is mainly tributaries. Okay, so as far as the forecast goes, what we have is a ridge of high pressure in the west, a ridge of high pressure in the east, and a trough of low pressure that's starting to very slowly move across the central U.S. And by Wednesday, you can see high pressure in the west, a dip in the jet stream right here, and another ridge here. So this is going to be a transition to cooler air. Note the very strong flow in the northwest. That's going to enhance precipitation along the northwest coast as well. So keep that in mind. And here's our temperatures, and sort of just take a look at it from far away. Look at all the red, and this is what we get. We're transitioning here now into a pattern where the western U.S. is going to be above normal, and these areas, especially in the darker shades of blue, well, that's the area that after a harsh winter, you're really looking forward to spring, and it looks like it's going to feel more like winter, unfortunately. Okay, so here you can see the transition on Wednesday, the cooler air beginning to sag to the south. Now, there will be a couple nice days this week, early in the week in the eastern U.S. Take a look at that. We have temperatures, looks like even in the 70s and 80s, so really a couple nice days, Wednesday in particular. Enjoy it because that cooler air is pushing in. So as far as rain goes, the two areas we're looking at is the Pacific Northwest along the coast and at higher elevations, and then some moderate rain that could aggravate the flooding on tributaries in the Ohio and down in the south central U.S. We're also going to have a chance of severe storms at times. I'm going to point this out right here. Over the next actually 5 days, right now nothing over slight, but let's keep an eye on days 4 and 5 where we have here, and then days 5 is right in here. Okay, as far as the extended outlook, well, let's take a look at it here. This is week 2, and this is where I'm saying it's a little frustrating for the Great Lakes into the northeast because that colder air is going to be moving back in. Here's our precipitation, and actually even weeks 3 and 4, take a look at this area right here. So that's what spring is. Go back and forth here. So a transition this week for the central and eventually the eastern U.S. from a milder weather to a cooler weather pattern. That's this week's briefing. Have a great week.